All right, welcome to another deep dive. This time we're going to be tackling something a little bit different and maybe even a little bit scary, honestly.
Oh,
Yeah, so a listener sent in this YouTube video, and, well, the title alone is kind of alarming. It's called Experts Show Why WW3 Over AI is Nearly Inevitable. Yikes. Right.
oh, that's certainly attention grabbing.
It is. And you know me, I can't resist a good deep dive into a topic like this. So we're going to break down this video from the channel Digital Engine, see what it's all about, what they're saying, the whole deal.
Okay, so we're diving into the world of AI and potential global conflict. Where do we even begin with something like that?
Well, right off the bat, the video kind of frames this whole AGI thing, artificial general intelligence, as this huge global arms race. Like they're comparing it to the nuclear arms race of the 20th century.
Interesting. So they're setting the stage with some pretty high stakes right from the start.
Exactly. It's like, are we really about to have a Cold War with robots? It feels a bit dramatic. But then again, the video does make some interesting points about, the motivations behind it all.
Okay, I'm curious. What kind of motivations are they talking about? What's driving this supposed AI arms race?
Well, they argue that countries and these big tech companies are all basically tripping over themselves to be the first to develop AGI.
Yeah.
And the reason, well, it's the same reasons humans have always been obsessed with power. Economic dominance, military advantage, the whole shebang.
The classic power struggle. It seems like even with incredibly advanced technology, some things never really change. But how does this, historical pattern apply to AI specifically?
That's what I was wondering too. But they make a pretty compelling case. I mean, think about it. Throughout history, powerful nations and empires have always tried to, maintain their power and influence by getting a leg up on the latest technology.
True, true. You can see that pattern repeating over and over. The race to develop gunpowder, the quest for nuclear weapons, even the internet. Each of these advancements completely shifted the global balance of power. Sometimes it even led to periods of, well, instability and conflict, right?
Right. And what this video is suggesting is that AGI could be an even bigger game changer, potentially even more so than nuclear weapons. It's kind of a sobering thought.
I can see why you said this deep dive might get a little scary, but why do they think AGI is such a potential game changer?
One of the reasons they give is the sheer speed of development. They actually claim that AGI isn't some far-off futuristic thing. It's potentially just a few years away.
Whoa, that's a lot sooner than most people probably imagine.
Right. It seems like just yesterday we were worried about robots taking our jobs, and now we're talking about, potential AI overlords.
So what's their reasoning for this accelerated timeline? Are they just speculating, or is there something more concrete behind this claim?
They actually point to something called scaling laws in AI. Apparently, it basically means that as we keep making computer brains bigger and more powerful, their capabilities also increase exponentially. So the more powerful the computer, the faster it learns.
I see. So it's like we're on this accelerating treadmill, and the pace of AI development is just getting faster and faster.
Exactly. Now, I'm not an AI expert, so I can't say for sure how accurate their timeline is, but even if they're off by a few years, the point still stands. AGI is coming, and it's coming a lot faster than most of us probably realize.
Okay, so let's say, for argument's sake, that they're right and AGI is just around the corner. What does that world actually look like? What are the practical implications of having AI that's potentially smarter than us?
That's where things get really interesting and potentially even more unsettling. One of the first things the video dives into is the potential for, mass unemployment. And they're not just talking about robots replacing factory workers or anything like that.
Oh. So they're going beyond the usual concerns about automation and manual labor.
Right. They're specifically talking about the displacement of thought workers, professionals, experts, people whose jobs require like high-level cognitive skills.
Like scientists, lawyers,
Yeah.
doctors, those kinds of professions.
Exactly. They even give this really specific example. OpenAI, that company, is potentially selling these PhD-level research agents, basically AI researchers, for something like $20,000 a month.
Wow, that's a pretty stark example. It really makes you think about the economic implications. If a company can get the same level of output or even better output from an AI for a fraction of the cost of a human team, what happens to all those human experts?
It's a huge question. And it's one that the video really pushes us to consider. I mean, everyone always assumes that AI will take over the boring, repetitive jobs first. But if it can perform at a PhD level, Well, that totally changes the game, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It definitely raises the stakes for everyone, regardless of their profession.
Yeah. And that leads to another even bigger question that the video raises, and it's one that I've been wrestling with ever since I watched it. Can we even control something that's vastly more intelligent than us?
That's a question that philosophers and scientists have been debating for centuries. It's the classic genie in a bottle problem. Once you unleash something that powerful, how do you ensure it doesn't turn against you?
Right. And with AI, it's even more complicated because we're not just talking about some magical being. We're talking about something we created, something that's potentially capable of learning, adapting, and evolving at a pace we can't even comprehend. How do you put the brakes on something like that?
Well, the video tackles this question head on by introducing this concept called Ashby's Law of Requisite Variety. It's a bit technical, but essentially it argues that to effectively control a system, you need to possess at least as much complexity as the system itself.
Okay, I think I'm following so far.
Yeah.
But how does that apply to controlling superintelligent AI?
Well, imagine trying to steer a massive cargo ship with a tiny little kayak paddle. You just don't have the leverage, the power, the complexity to make a real difference. The ship is going to go where it wants to go, regardless of your paddling efforts.
So applying that to AI, the idea is that if we create something infinitely more intelligent than ourselves, we essentially lose the ability to predict or control its actions. We're the kayak, and the superintelligence is the cargo ship.
Exactly. And the video argues that even if we try to build in safeguards, the very nature of superintelligence might make it uncontrollable. It's like trying to contain an ocean in a teacup. Eventually, something's got to give.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get why the title of this video is so ominous. We've got this AI arms race heating up, the potential for uncontrollable superintelligence, and the distinct possibility that even our best efforts to control it might backfire spectacularly.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. The video goes even deeper, exploring some concepts that are pretty mind-bending, to say the least. But we'll save those for the next part of our deep dive.
All right, listener, if you're not already feeling a little uneasy, just wait until you hear what's coming next. We're about to delve into some truly unsettling territory as we continue exploring this potential AI-fueled future. So when we left off, the video was talking about tool AI as this, safer alternative to AGI. It seemed like a pretty sensible approach at first glance, but the more I think about it, the more I wonder, is it really that simple?
That's the big question, isn't it? The video even admits that shifting to a tool AI approach would require us to completely change how we think about and develop AI. We'd need some serious regulations, robust safety measures, and honestly, we'd need to move away from this bigger, faster, stronger mindset that seems to dominate the field right now.
Yeah, it's like they're saying we need to slow down, be more careful and deliberate with how we approach this whole AI thing. Instead of racing towards some finish line, we need to be more strategic. Carefully map out a course that avoids all the potential dangers. But realistically, do you think all the players in this AI game, like the governments, the tech giants, the researchers, do you really think they'll all just agree to slow down and play it safe?
That's definitely a major challenge, especially when you consider how competitive this whole field is. Everyone wants to be the first, the best, the most innovative, but the video does propose some pretty concrete ideas for how to make this shift happen.
Oh, what kind of ideas are they talking about?
Well, for example, they suggest controlling the production of AI chips, kind of like limiting the raw materials that go into building these powerful AI systems. They also talk about holding AI companies legally responsible for any harm caused by their creations.
Hmm, that's interesting. So making them accountable for the consequences, kind of like how pharmaceutical companies are liable for the side effects of their drugs.
Exactly. And another big one they emphasize is transparency and public ownership in AI development. Basically making sure that the process is open and accessible to the public so we're not all just left in the dark about what's being created.
Those sound like pretty significant changes to the current system. I mean, right now, a lot of this AI development is happening behind closed doors in these big tech companies with very little oversight.
Absolutely. And I'm sure there would be pushback from those who benefit from the current, less regulated environment. But the video argues that the potential consequences of unchecked AGI development are so serious, so potentially catastrophic, that we have to try to steer things in a safer direction.
It makes sense. I mean, the stakes are pretty high. But even with this focus on tool AI, intentionally limited AI, I'm still kind of stuck on that idea of control. Can we really guarantee that it'll stay a tool? What's to stop it from, evolving, becoming something more powerful, something beyond our control?
That's a question that even the most optimistic AI researchers grapple with. It's like, how do you build a tool that's smart enough to be useful, but not so smart that it outsmarts its creator? It's a delicate balance. And frankly, there's no easy answer.
So even if we manage to shift to tool AI, there's still this lingering uncertainty, this possibility that we're playing with fire. It's all pretty unsettling, to be honest. But you know what else I found really interesting and maybe even more immediately concerning is the video's focus on the economic and social impacts of AI.
You're right. They don't just dwell on the existential risks. They spend a good chunk of time talking about how AI could fundamentally change society, especially when it comes to, jobs, wealth, the whole economic structure.
Yeah, we already touched on job displacement earlier, but the video goes even deeper than that. They argue that AI could exacerbate existing inequalities, potentially concentrate wealth and power in the hands of the few who control this technology.
It's a valid concern. Think about it. What happens to the value of human labor when AI can do so many things better, faster, and cheaper? How do we ensure fairness and opportunity in a world where AI-driven automation is the norm? These are questions we can't ignore.
It's like we're on the verge of this huge technological shift, and we have a choice to make. Are we going to just let it happen and see where it takes us, or are we going to try to proactively shape it in a way that benefits all of humanity, not just a select few? And it feels like this video is really urging us to take this second path.
And they make it clear that this isn't just a responsibility for governments and corporations. Individuals have a role to play too. Each of us has a responsibility to, engage in these conversations, learn about AI, and demand transparency and accountability from those developing it. It might sound idealistic, but the future of AI is not set in stone. It's a future we're creating through our choices and our actions.
It's like that saying, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. But instead of evil, we're talking about a future where AI is out of control, where it's used for harmful purposes. So what can the average person actually do to, push back against that?
Well, the video suggests a few concrete things. Supporting organizations that are working on AI ethics and safety, advocating for policies that promote responsible AI development. Even just talking about these issues with friends and family can make a difference. It's all about raising awareness and getting people engaged. The more informed we are, the better equipped we'll be to demand a future where AI is a force for good, not something to be feared.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed by all this, the scale of it, the complexity.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. Awareness is key. And to be fair, the video isn't all doom and gloom. Amidst all the warnings about the potential dangers, they also showcase some pretty amazing ways AI is being used to solve real-world problems, right?
Absolutely. AI is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used for a wide range of purposes. There's so much potential for it to benefit humanity in medicine, scientific research, environmental protection, education, you name it. The challenge, as the video emphasizes, is to harness this power responsibly and ethically.
So it sounds like the main takeaway here is that the future of AI isn't predetermined. It's a future we're actively shaping right here, right now, through the choices we make today.
I think that sums it up perfectly. And as we move into the final part of our deep dive, that's the question I want to pose to our listener. What role do you see yourself playing in this unfolding AI narrative? What are your hopes and fears, and what steps, if any, are you willing to take to shape the future of AI?
It's easy to get lost in all the what ifs and the worst case scenarios when we talk about AI, especially, with this video we're diving into. I mean, the title itself is pretty intense. Experts show why WW3 over AI is nearly inevitable. But even with all that, I keep coming back to this idea that, well, we still have a choice. We're not just helpless bystanders in all of this.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Even the experts who are really sounding the alarm about the risks of AI, they still seem to emphasize the importance of human agency. Like, we're not powerless. We can shape how this all unfolds.
It's like AI is this incredibly powerful tool, and, just like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
Hmm.
It really depends on us, on the people who are building it and using it.
That's a great point. And this video really hammers home the idea that ethics have to be front and center in all of this. It's not just about what we can do with AI, it's about what we should do. We have to think about the consequences, not just the intended ones, but the unintended ones too.
It's like just because we can build an AI that can, I don't know, write a symphony or design a skyscraper, it doesn't automatically mean we should, right? There are so many other things to consider.
Yeah.
The ethical implications, the societal impact, our values as humans.
Right, right. And this video specifically talks about the need for transparency and accountability. Like, we need to know how these AI systems are being built, what data they're trained on, and what kinds of biases they might have. We need ways to hold the people developing AI accountable if their creations cause harm. We can't just blindly trust that everyone has good intentions.
It's true. We need checks and balances, just like in any other powerful system. We need to be informed and we need to demand answers. But that kind of brings up another question. How do we actually do that? How do we, as individuals, make our voices heard in a world that's increasingly dominated by these huge tech companies and complex algorithms? It could feel a little daunting, to be honest.
Oh, it definitely is. It's a big challenge. But the video does offer some practical suggestions, like supporting organizations that are working on AI ethics and safety. We can advocate for policies that promote responsible development and, even just educating ourselves and others about the potential risks and benefits of AI can go a long way. The more we know, the better equipped we are to actually engage in these conversations and push for change.
So it's a combination of like individual action, collective organizing, and pushing for systemic change. It's about recognizing that we're not just passive consumers of technology, we're active participants in shaping its future.
Exactly. And, we may not all be AI experts, but we are experts in being human. And that perspective, that human perspective, is so valuable in this whole conversation.
It is. And that's a really important message to remember. So, listener, as we wrap up this deep dive into AI and the future of humanity, we want to leave you with this thought. The future isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we create together. Thanks for joining us on this exploration, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.